Hi, my name is Catherine. I just graduated from nursing school last month. I sat in to take the NCLEX last week and I found out that I passed in 150 questions. So, here are my 5 tips that I have for you guys to pass the NCLEX on the first try. The first tip that I have is to take your NCLEX right away. Don't wait. Once you get your ATT number, just take time to spend the next few minutes scheduling and finding a day that's right for you. Your nursing school has prepared you for everything that you need to know, and there's no need to really wait. I feel like this was the best advice my clinical instructor could have gave me because he told me that when he graduated nursing school, a lot of his friends waited because they wanted to travel and kind of like just go out the country, but a lot of them didn't pass on their first try because they took that little break and it was like they were kind of like out of the zone, and they forgotten like maybe a lot of the materials already. So don't wait. Once you get your ATT, just schedule it and have a plan of what you're going to do between those weeks. The next tip that I have is to not relearn everything. Your nursing school has already prepared you to take the NCLEX and they've taught you everything that you need to know. So I feel like the next thing to do is just to do a lot of practice questions and get used to how the NCLEX asks their questions. For me, in the beginning, I was really worried about kind of like not knowing certain details or like signs and symptoms to like a lot of like certain diseases or like medications and things like that. But I feel like if you spend a lot of time like going through everything that you've learned in nursing school, you're never really going to have time to do the practice questions, which is really crucial because NCLEX style questions are a little different than maybe like the exam questions that you take in school. This is extremely important, especially if your school for the exams that you took in your nursing school, if there was not a lot of select all that apply questions or case study questions, because for the NCLEX, for the new gen NCLEX, they're gonna have those type of questions and also bow tie questions. I know for my school at Loyola, um a lot of like the instructors have kind of like started to incorporate those type of questions into our kind of like weekly exams. So it wasn't really new to me. I was doing my practice questions. There were topics that I have forgotten about. So when those questions did come up, that would be like the perfect time for me to like refresh myself, look things up, or like go back into my notes. And that would be like the only time that I would kind of like relearn something. Other than that, there were also questions that I've did that I've never like words I've never heard about before. So just kind of like learning how to navigate through those questions, because I feel like for the NCLEX there would be like things that you've never heard about or certain topics that your nursing school never like haven't covered before. And I feel like in my next tip, I'm going to talk about Marquet, and he does a great job on teaching you how to like answer those questions. The next tip I have is to really practice your endurance. Some people might get 85 questions, and some people might get 150. And in my case, I got all 150 questions, and I was in the exam room for about 4 hours. I have like when I took my practice exams, I've I haven't really sat for like 3 to 4 hours straight, and I did try to like do that, but it was really challenging for me at home. So I think it would be really important if you're able to like go to a library or somewhere quiet, because it takes a toll on you. Like constantly having to like use your brain and then also like take time to like really like focus on like 150 questions is challenging. So building up that test endurance will prepare you for whether you're going to get 85 questions or 150 questions. Go in with the mindset that you're going to get 150 questions, because it is nice to get 85 and see your computer shut off at that 85 question mark, but just don't freak out once like you hit like 90 questions, because I feel like when I hit 100 questions, I was kind of like panicking, like, oh my gosh, why like why am I still like, why hasn't my computer shut off yet, and things like that. But Mark K, he really made like he made like a comment, and I just remember that when I hit the 100 question mark, saying that like, as long as you're still going, that means like you're still in the game. So I feel like I really took time in between like each question where I felt really like unmotivated, to kind of like just like refresh and like clear my mind and give myself a kind of like a moment of reminder that like, okay, like I'm gonna have to push through and like try to not doze off or think about anything else. Because you only get like one shot at this. I mean, like, you are able to like pay for the whole exam and take it again, but like nobody wants to do that. The fourth tip I have is to have a plan. So for me, I spent like 3 days doing nothing after I graduated from nursing school, which I think is really important, to take time to yourself, like especially um like you've just spent like the whole like semester taking exams, clinicals, labs, exams, projects. And you finally feel like you're able to get a breather. So catch up with friends, families, do things that you enjoy. I think I did nothing but sleep and like watch TV for 3 days straight. And it was difficult to like not think about school, but I definitely needed that break. The academic advisor at my school also does a really great job in updating us about when um our nursing school was going to send over the final transcripts to the board of nursing, stating that we've passed and we're allowed to sit like for the NCLEX. So she kind of gave us t- a an, a date of about when we would expect our ATT. So I kind of like made my plan around that date. And that was about like 2 to 3 weeks where I would sit in for the NCLEX. For my plan, I definitely tweaked it a bit along the way. It was a bit of a trial and error. Initially, I did find myself trying to like relearn everything, but it was just not ideal. And by the time you relearn everything, you will have no time to do the practice questions. So I kind of like separated my days in between like the week of like how many practice questions I would get done. And then I did a mixture of practice questions, listening to NCLEX reviews by different YouTubers online. And that really helped me. And then when things would come up, or like I would have plans with like family and friends, I would make those plans, because at the end of the day, I still think it's important to like enjoy like the process and just like enjoy your summer. And if you're graduating in December, enjoy Christmas. It's very easy to get burnt out, and I feel like if you're just studying and preparing for the NCLEX for 24 hours, like 7 days a week for 2 to 3 weeks straight, you're gonna get burnt out, and it's just not, you don't really need to there's not really a need to overstudy it. The last tip I have is I'm gonna share with you guys the two resources that I use. So I used Marquet and ATI. A lot of my friends, they use NCLEX Bootcamp, some of them used Archer. I know my school was telling us how Archer does a better job in mimicking like the new gen questions versus UWorld. So a few of them have used Archer. And then I've also known a few of my peers who just use ATI as well, because that's what our school offered. And we've all passed like on our first try. So what I liked about ATI is that it offers about like 3,500 questions, and I think that's the reason why I didn't find a need to pay for another resource, because by the time I graduate nursing school and sat in for the NCLEX, I think I've reviewed about like 2,000 questions from ATI. So I had about like 1,500 questions that I've were new and I have not seen yet in ATI. And I was just thinking like there's not really a need for me to use like or to pay for Archer or NCLEX Bootcamp when um I still have questions left from ATI, and ATI already does a really good job in kind of like preparing you for the NCLEX. So that's just what I stuck out with. Another thing I like about ATI is that they do a really good job in explaining why the answer choices in multiple choice questions are wrong, and then they also do a good job in explaining why the correct answer is the correct answer. There's also bow tie questions, case studies, and a lot of select all that apply questions, which the NCLEX has. The second resource I used were listening to Mark K lectures. Mark K does a great job in giving students advice on test taking strategies. I listened to the last episode of the Marquet lecture right after I graduated from nursing school and then before I sat in for the NCLEX, and I felt like that really eased my anxiety and kind of like refreshed my brain on like how to like really like answer questions that I just have no idea about, and instead of freaking out, being able to like calmly dissect the questions and then see how I could use certain words in the questions to lead me to the right answer was really helpful. I know a lot of my friends from nursing school that have used Marquet have shared similar experiences where Marquet just really, really helped like us in lowering our test anxiety and just being able to answer questions like strategically. I remember watching this interview with Marquet on YouTube, and he was sharing how he used to write questions for the NCLEX. So, like, what better resource? He is like the best resource to like go to because he know how to write. He knows what the NCLEX entails, and he knows what the NCLEX wants. And yeah, I know that all my friends that have used Marquet also passed the NCLEX on the first try, and I just have nothing bad to say about his work. Those are my 5 tips that I have from studying the NCLEX and my journey on how I was able to pass the NCLEX on the first try in 150 questions. And I wish everybody good luck, and just know that you'll be fine because you've come all this way. This is the final stretch and you got this.